Hello, welcome to another video by Rick Miracle, me. In my series of Freemasonry and Satanism, 69 part 6. I said when I started this book I would make 6 videos. I could make 12, 2 hours each, 24 2 hours each. That's how much material was in this book. I've barely touched the surface. Go buy the book. The freedom and security of America may depend on it. The freedom and security of the world may depend on it. And these other books I've been reading. So what I thought I would do is just touch the surface of a couple more chapters. And do another reading from the book on Agenda 21, The Wrenching Transformations of America, by Tom DeWeese, I think it is. But before I start, I've got a couple documents I'd like to look at. Things are happening in the world at an ever-increasing rate. The arrogance of the Zionists, the United Nations, or of our own politicians, government agencies. It is a wrenching transformation. And one of the things that if you look up Dane Wigington, geoengineering his website, oh my God, it's becoming clearer and clearer. They are spraying us with chemicals. And solar radiation management, every time I get ready to make a video, I get interrupted. If I do one outside, the neighbor starts up the riding lawnmower. I do it inside, somebody knocks on the door. Rick Miracle Video Productions. You get what you see. Anyways, Dane Wigington, I'm looking at the website on my computer here, geoengineeringwatch.org. I highly recommend you go look at it. We're being sprayed. We're being sprayed like we're bugs. And as I say in my sky spraying videos, I don't think we're bugs. They shouldn't be spraying us like we're bugs. Right? Geoengineeringwatch.org. I'm going to show you one page. But the proof is becoming absolute, without a doubt. Solar radiation management is the term that Dane Wigington says we ought to use to stop all the ridicule and insults by people who just don't believe, even when they look up and they can see we're being sprayed. What's that got to do with bloody Zion? In the Jewish Utopia by Professor Higgins, getting off to a good start here, where they want to rule everybody they allow to live. In the other documents, we went over Protocols of Zion, all the other books on the Jewish Talmud, Zionism, Utopia, and the activities for a couple thousand, 3,000 years or more. They want to kill off a lot of people. They want to rule the world with the one world order. George Bush said it, Senior, Junior, Bill Clinton, Obama, the Pope at the Vatican, Kissinger, everybody, these people that are running our world. And so the people are probably the last to know, even though they hear it all the time. And that is, I guess, hiding it in plain sight is the best way to deceive everybody. So the word I learned from Dane Wigington today, solar radiation management, And you can go outside at your house, wherever you live, your city, and generally speaking, you can see this stuff in the sky. Those are not contrails, normal condensation emitted from jet engines. They're so efficient today, and this is on Dane Wigington's site, geoengineeringwatch.org, that those engines are designed, there's no way on Earth they can do this. Like when you go outside in the freezing weather and you exhale and you see that little bit of steam, it goes away in a second. It doesn't stay in the sky like this. And then down here you can see the apparent electromagnetic radiation properties that causes the ripples. It's imitating the actual wave, the frequency being transmitted. The Independent Thinkers Chemtrails Fact Sheet. There goes the cell phone again. Gotta love it. Anyways, there's a little note on the bottom of this card. I got this in Asheville. They were having a little rally down at the park talking about sky spraying, chemtrails. You can pause it and read this stuff. The Independent Thinkers Chemtrails Fact Sheet. Have you noticed airplanes leaving white plumes in the sky? Often in grids, these trails widen and spread out, forming layers that look like clouds. Soon the sky is overcast. Here are 10 points to consider about this phenomenon. Current U.S. Senate bills are seeking to pass weather modification and weather experimentation policies to engineer and control our atmosphere. And if you think that's benign, harmless, think again. We know from Agenda 21, the wrenching transformation of America, and so much other information I'm going to share on this video. We know we are under attack. So why would they be dumping these chemicals in the sky? It's an aggressive attack to destroy the environment, things that grow, quality water, animals, bugs, bees, even people get toxified. And recently, I think yesterday, the day before, it was a press release on a couple websites I looked at, that these sticky Halloween type stringy stuff was falling from the sky. You could see it on the telephone pole wires, the trees, the fences. And people were making many videos on YouTube. You can see them. So they could put Ebola, a plague, or something. We're under attack. And I think we can start to believe that. And I've been making these videos for a couple years on my investigation. A simple investigation. What the heck is going on? And all my research led me to believe, and it has been verified, my thinking, by the books I've read and the material I've gone over, the videos I've watched, magazines, newspaper press releases. Been really on it for a couple years, and reading for 10 years prior to that, coming up to speed since I discovered something was going on. My clients everywhere I went were losing money, suffering, complaining. People losing homes from Argentina to Canada, Germany, United States, California. Everywhere. So the jets that spray aerosol in the sky have been seen all over the world. This is a one world order program. They're doing this all over the world. The USA Georgia Guidestones say a worldwide population of 500 million or less. That means 6 billion people have to go. And if you think of people as animals, like overpopulated forest of deer, they allow the hunters to go in and thin out the population. Yes? Animals. So they think we people are animals. Trying to thin out the herd of we human animals. The contents of the spray includes fibers, like it was reported for the last couple days in Texas, metal particulates, biological elements, including fungi, many of which are microscopic. These microparticles enter our bodies, eluding our immune system and impairing our health. Some of the particles are artificially engineered and self-replicating. The metals in the spray are ionized, electrically charged. The air we live in is now a plasma, able to conduct energy. It has been weaponized. I woke up this morning, I had a dream that was just too unreal. I'll share it with you. This is November 2nd, Monday. So this morning I woke up, 2015. And the dream I had is I was with this girl somewhere, and we could look over the horizon and we could virtually see that the atmosphere and the planet was dissolving like plasma. That's another good way to visualize it. Everything was dissolving like that Stephen King movie. And it was moving towards us. The whole wall was eating up everything. So we started, of course, fleeing this way. And it was coming faster and faster. And we ran into this guy, like a professor man, an older man. And he was going in this direction. And for some reason, we started following him. And when we stayed close to him, we seemed to be getting further away from this wall of plasma that was dissolving the planet. It's almost like some of that New Age material, an ascension type thing, where two planets merge together, this material dimension with the spiritual world dimension. That's what I was thinking in my dream. So we were staying with him, and he had these keys, and we were running down the street, and he opened up the front door to this house, and was running straight through the house to the back door of the house, and out that door, and we were following him. And then he came to the next house, unlocked the front door, ran straight through the house, out the back door, house after house after house. And during the dream, I wondered where he had all those keys. Just saying, I'm reading this stuff here, and all this books and material. In this dream, I woke up, I go, wow, that was just too unbelievable. So finally, we came to this oil pumping station, fueling station, and somehow the cables were apart, and it was spraying the oil out, and it wasn't going to where it was supposed to go. And somebody had made a phone call saying the airport needed the fuel for the planes to fly people out of here. So me and this girl I was with decided to scale the wall and try to put the cables back together. Thinking doing the right thing, as the older man had told us, what might protect us from this wall of plasma coming at us. Very bizarre, I agree. So anyways, we did manage to couple the connectors together, and then we took off in the direction away from this wall that you could still see over the horizon that was coming. And we saw these trains going really fast by. So we decided we wanted to get on one of those trains to get out of here, but they were going too fast and they were too far. And finally, one locomotive with just a small little train on it was a little slower. And we went over there and asked if we could get on, and they said sure, and we got on the train. And it was going parallel to this wall of plasma that was dissolving the earth. And so I mentioned to the conductor, I go, we're not getting away. And he says, well, right up around the corner is a bend, and it's going to turn away and head over towards the airport. And apparently that's when I woke up. But so bizarre, the dream, is this plasma, this wall of stuff was dissolving the earth. The reality. This makes you wonder, you know, why do we have these dreams? And you know, I've been a psychic researcher for many years, and after I get done with these videos I've been doing on this subject, I'm going to try to get back into the occult side of this, the stuff with the secret mystery schools of Babylon are talking about, the stuff that these people who want a new world order are talking about, the Kabbalah, the religion of these people. And it certainly is not a reality that we all think it is. And a lot of people are in denial about it. This reality is not what we think it is. People need to wake up. So much for my crazy dream. Can you imagine it? And then, you know, you get this sky spraying. You get these reasons here on the chart. And the back of the chart has more reasons. Some websites there you can look at. Skies in your neighborhood look like that. Like that. Okay, number 9. I'm going to skip some of these. The HAARP system, the High Frequency Active Aurora Research Program, is a military surveillance operation that generates electromagnetic frequencies. A military surveillance operation. I think it's much more than that. The combination of HAARP activity and the atmospheric spraying may be producing climate change. And if you go look up HAARP, H-A-A-R-P, in images, on Yahoo or Google, you'll see the website. They've got them strategically located. Alaska, Puerto Rico, England, Norway. Strategically located all over the world. Remember, there was a much more advanced society on Earth before Noah's flood. And according to the Atlanteans, or some other information, one of the reasons for the flood and the destruction or elimination of the persons or people on the planet back then was they had crossed the line of normalcy. They were into some stuff that was very sinister and evil. Abhorrent to God, maybe. Cloning, making sex slaves and worker slaves and all kinds of gruesome things. And we've all seen it in mythology. Half horse, half man, half fish, half man, half snake, half man. All kinds of gruesome things. You can go look at any book on mythology and see it. Even the depictions in the Egyptian hieroglyphics, and hieroglyphics even in Mexico and all that, have all these half animal, half human things. And what are they into today? Cloning, eugenics, Monsanto. All kinds of crazy things. Insanity, basically. The combination of HAARP activity and the atmospheric spraying may be producing climate change. A phenomenon blamed on nature's response to runaway global warming. Our environment is deliberately being altered. And I'll hold the card up if you want to read it all yourself. You can hit pause. All right. Not only are they destroying the environment, but they're destroying social life for people all over the planet. They're destroying the way our children think. And I mentioned this a couple times, and I said I was going to show it in my video, so I'm going to show it now. Same-sex parents spend more time with kids, study finds, by Beth Greenfield, senior writer, October 19th, 2015. You'd think a senior writer would know better than to be publishing this. But, you know, there is a plan. You see the picture there? It's two lesbians on a bed with two little children, and it says same-sex parents spend more time with their kids. You can go look this up. October 19, 2015. Let's see here. Kids with two moms may be getting more quality time with their parents. 40% more time than children with a mom and a dad. Did you hear what I just said? Could anybody with any sense, common sense, believe this press release? And we know a lot of people out there, 85% are zombies. It says it right here. Kids with two moms may be getting more quality time with their parents. 40% more time, in fact, than children with a mom and a dad. According to a new study out of the University of Texas at Austin Population Research Center. You see what I'm saying? Population Research Center. And I know if you talk to people who are into this New Age, or who are under some kind of subliminal mind control, or worse, maybe what they call sleepers, people who have been programmed, and they're in our communities everywhere, and they can be activated. You don't think so? Wait till I continue with my research. You're going to see that it is true. MK Ultra, Project Montauk, Project Paperclip, all kinds of black op programs underground in our government, and all these people who are trying to bring about this New Age and New World Order, which is human enslavement. And these people will be kings and queens and leaders. This is the world they want. Make no mistake about it. Leading up to the Supreme Court decision of marriage equality. Well, wait a minute. Aren't half the people on the Supreme Court Jewish people? Are they dual citizens with Israel? If they're Jewish, they are automatically accepted as citizens of Israel once they step foot on the soil. So the deck is stacked. The politicians, legislation, Patriot Act, 911, all this stuff, fake shootings, crisis actors, sky spraying, destroying everything. In Florida, they had said they had a canker. They destroyed all the citrus trees, grapefruit, orange trees, tangerines. I always suspected something was up. But since then, they've been doing it with fish spraying the Gulf, Fukushima spraying, polluting the Pacific, and more we're going to get into. So, the Supreme Court marriage, some of the public dialogue had focused on whether same-sex parents creates a different parenting environment for children compared to children who live with a mother and father. Kate Pritchett, postdoctoral fellow and lead study author, tells Yahoo Parenting, our study sought to directly test this by looking at parenting behavior of a nationally representative, randomly selected samples of parents, something no other study had examined. Story, the happiest parents just might surprise you. What the study found was this: same-sex parents who are female spend 40% more time engaged in child-focused activities than do different-sex parents. The finding challenges biases against same-sex parents and demonstrates high levels of investment in children by same-sex couples. If you can't see that that's just plain propaganda, I got another one here that's too much to believe. Right before I read this stuff on Zionism, and we know that these people are in control of our planet, our government, the United Nations, Agenda 21, faking global warming, Al Gore, and so much more. 911, overthrowing all those countries in the Middle East, all those citizens fleeing, now being shipped even to the United States. Liberal news outlet literally hails Satan attacks the tyranny of heaven in full-scale assault on Christians. I'm telling you, there is an assault on Christians worldwide. Satan praised as wickedly cool in yet another liberal media anti-Christian manifesto. Like I say, go look it up, don't believe me. Fresh off a recent attack on Christians, in which he compared God to a rapist, anti-Christian zealot Jeffrey Taylor has written yet another hate piece, this time literally praising Satan as a decent, noble person for fighting the tyranny of the Lord. Moving on, the article published on the infamous clickbait rag Salon.com. So Salon.com is a popular website. This guy calls it a clickbait rag. Further proves that there is indeed a war on Christianity being waged by hard left zealots who absolutely despise Christians themselves and want nothing more than to fully remove the religion from the country. Salon.com, I think, is a Jewish website. SALON.com. Taylor starts his article off by hailing Satan. This is not hyperbole. He literally hails the Lord of Darkness, before insinuating that Christians have an actual mental disorder for believing in God. All hail Satan in the Satanic Temple. That's what he says. But first, some words of explanation. Crazy? Moving on. The faith, Christianity. Deranged. And this is what a lot of people believe these days. And they have been mind controlled. We've been going over that. From childhood, Pokemon, cartoons, everything. The faith deranged. Day in and day out, in the current century and in those past, have furnished and continue to furnish us with examples of the inherently inequity of their disorder. A disorder that has, especially in recent times, insinuated itself into and dangerously infected our already alien body politic, all in the name of the supposedly God, good Lord Almighty. Did you hear what I just said? What he's bashing Christianity? And we've been doing this stuff on the Jewish people, who seem to be the real culprits, as it says here, dangerously affecting our already ailing body politic, all in the name of the supposedly their god Lucifer. I'm changing it for these people. Take note of the extreme paranoia infecting Taylor here, as he somehow believes that Christianity is leading the narrative in this country, when in reality a vast majority of the media consider most Christians to be evil bigots. The media is owned by these people. We've gone over this and over this and over this. Everybody knows that. I got books, an empire of their own. Jews that own Hollywood. The Jews, from my studies, predominantly own printing presses, book publishing, all kinds of enterprises, politics. Half of the Supreme Court is now Jewish. What, 1% or less of people in this country are Jewish? How does half of the people in the Supreme Court wind up being Jewish? All of the people, aides or czars or advisors almost to Obama and Bush and probably the other presidents. We know back in the past with Woodrow Wilson, all his advisors were Jewish. They conspired to bring the United States into World War I. We've been going over this material with a fine-tooth comb. We know who the culprits are. We know they took over the Vatican. We know that the Vatican had Caesars and emperors before they switched over to the popedom. And then they kind of meshed Jesus' teachings with the pagan religion. There's nobody arguing that that's not true. Now, did those priests and nuns and other people going throughout the world teaching about God, starting orphanages, churches, missions, were they all evil? Apparently in history, no, they were not. They did a lot of good, civilizing Indians, civilizing other countries. But the people at the higher levels were doing it for another reason. Money gain. When they had the Crusades, they would go over there to the Middle East, split the guts open of even children to see if they swallowed a gold coin. According to books I've gone over, Robinson. Maybe I'll get those books out and we'll look at the covers. We know when they came to Central and South America with their big banners with the crosses and all that. Even Mexico City, they would go there and go see the shaman, steal all the knowledge about shamanism, secret mystery schools of Babylon, magic that the shaman knew, proceed to kill him and start killing the natives and then stealing their gold. At least we can say these evil culprits are persistent. And they continue to do the same thing, like 2008, when they took trillions from the American people by crashing the very system they controlled. Spending those trillions that they say we own on their empire building all over the world. Fencing off 90% of America, creating all kinds of legislation to take away what rights we have remaining, what property we have remaining. And on environmental stands, we can't do anything with our property. They can confiscate our property. God forbid you have a creek running through your property, and then you spill a cup of coffee in it. Maybe you just polluted the creek. After adding in some pop shots at Islam, Taylor is an equal opportunity religion hater. Go look up Salon.com. This stuff's too much to believe. I went on, I saw a video this morning with Dane Wigington, geoengineeringwatch.com, and he pointed out that there was this new document he discovered, a 1978 document, 728 pages, I believe, massive U.S. Senate document on national and global warming modification. 1978. Right out of the Senate of the United States, Congress. I printed out one page, there were 3 pages. Look at the list of documents created by the government and other institutions about weather control. It's a guise. It's a lie. In my opinion, this is absolute proof that they are solar radiation management, and they're doing it with evil intent, as we just read here with the propaganda that lesbian parents spend 40% more time with their kids. And Satan praised. What was that one gay celebration picture I showed repeatedly? The gay man's holding up a big sign that says, "I bet hell is fabulous." So if you go on geoengineeringwatch.org, and on the top there's you go to the home page, I'm looking at my computer, There's a link called Documents. And there's just too many documents for anybody to try to deny that this is not happening. They are destroying our environment. Please go look it up and print out that page and read some of those documents yourself. Yes, I'm going to get to this book, but after doing this little preview here of some documents, it's going to make much more sense. This is going to scare anybody, and I think it's happening in America already. In America. In many places in the world, it seems like somebody's getting ready for an invasion. Sleepers. Thousands of Muslim invaders now disappearing from migrant camps. You're not going to believe what's happening, and I've been watching quite a few videos on this subject. This was on 11/2 today, 2015, by Tim Brown. And if you take that top sentence, type it into your search thing, you'll find this document. As we watch the invasion of Europe by alleged Muslim migrants, which are not just Syrians, the whole Middle East, they're evacuating all these Arabs. I don't know why they call them Muslims. They're Arabs. Well, we're really not sure what they are. They might be pre-planned placed troops, or people who are going to assist with the takeover of all these countries in the Middle East. I mean, not the Middle East, which has already been taken over, but all over the EU, European Union, and the United States, and much more, who are really Muslim invaders. The story has gone from Islamic gangs raping women and children and plundering churches and schools in Germany, which is all propaganda, to the fact that many of these Muslims, why do they call them Muslims? Are they Arabs? The Germans were tracking have now begun to disappear from some of the migrant camps. So they've been shipping in by plane, train, or marching down the highway Arabs from the Middle East, not necessarily Muslims. We don't know what they are. Like I said, it could be some kind of pre-planned invasion and having all these people infiltrate all the communities. According to a German press reports, keeping track of all the Mohammeds and allies pouring across the borders is proving ever so tricky for European countries, being flooded with people on the move from the Middle East and Africa. So these people are fleeing the Middle East and Northern Africa and Africa, a huge territory. Lots of people. Who is running them all out of there? What's the purpose? We know what it is. It's intended to destroy the communities in the EU and America. Dilute Christianity, destroy Christianity, promising these people, I mean, you've got to be spending tons of money getting these people to migrate out of where they are. Now the United Nations is partnering with a private company to offer a solution. A new universal identification system. Aha! Microchipping everybody. That will comply with the United Nations sustainability goal of getting legal biometrics IDs that include iris scans, photographs, and fingerprints into the hands of everyone in the world by the year 2030. Wow. I believe if you take 20 divided by 30, it equals 666666. Get your cell phone out and get to the calculator and divide 20 by 30. That's what they're changing Agenda 21 to Agenda 2030. It offers hope for the UN Sustainable Development Goal, United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. In America, they're running Agenda 21 on us. And common purpose, common core, of getting the legal ID into the hands of everyone in the world by the year 2030 with its Identification for Development ID4D initiative. So my point is these people, they're moving them intentionally out of the Middle East, we all know this, out of Africa, into America and all the communities across the country, destroying the communities already suffering from financial, economic problems. Alright, it gets a little worse. U.S. intelligence director warns of Chinese attack on the power grid, causing Armageddon. Have you prepared your family for the collapse? Dated October 27th, 2015, by J.D. Hayes. This Natural News says a special unit of the Chinese People's Liberation Army is dedicated to waging cyber warfare against the United States. Should the two nations become embroiled in a conventional conflict with the goal of knocking out American infrastructure that is vital to the nation's survival. So somebody's building up all this propaganda. Fear-mongering, causing everybody to further go along with the New World Order. It gets worse. Former WHO, World Health Organization, official Fukushima plant is dumping nuclear waste into the ocean on a daily basis. There is no foreseeable end to it, and nobody has any good ideas on how to stop it. Japan's government worried that attempts to reduce leakage will cause even more radioactivity to flow into the sea. Well, I'm not a genius, but I'm sure that if I was in charge, I could get this stuff solved. A good example, remote-controlled helicopters with a crane and a fork, and pick up the debris, no matter how little, a little bit at a time every day. Obviously, you would start cleaning up the place. But maybe the purpose is to destroy any food production from the Pacific. It's too much. Go read this article. So it says, TEPCO hopes to freeze the soil around the reactors. The Nuclear Regulatory Authority has yet to give permission, saying creation of frozen soil could drastically change the underground water level. Again, here's a good idea. Freeze the soil, scoop it up, and move it. And hopefully be carrying the radioactive material with you. Dry throat today. That's just a horrible situation. I wouldn't eat any seafood out of the Pacific. It gets worse. St. Louis radiation poisoning death toll revealed October 31, 2015. See why I went over these press releases that are coming out these days? Thousands of barrels filled with radioactive waste dumped in St. Louis. These people who control our world. Bloody Zion is Jewish people. The State of Israel. Balfour Agreement. Everything we've been talking about. Rockefellers, Rothschilds, banksters. Advising President Woodrow Wilson. Getting Kennedy killed. The secret government behind the governments, the conspirators. They're the ones who dumped these barrels of radioactive waste in St. Louis. The people who own the companies. And they want to give us this new world order where we become enslaved by their excuse that we're destroying the planet. They destroyed the planet. St. Louis residents dying in record number. St. Louis. Don't move there. Residents dying in record numbers is sending locals fleeing, becoming refugees from a sacrifice zone, secretly kept for decades. A cover-up was effective until community action resulted in reports explaining the myriad of local environmental diseases causing violent deaths was from ingesting and eating radioactive material in their homes, and community linking the horror to the United States war machine's nuclear weapons system. Now, Prime Minister of Israel, Sharon, look this up, don't believe me as I keep saying, said, don't worry about the USA, we control the USA. We know since World War II they had Project Paperclip. They got all those German scientists and brought them into the United States in secret, illegally. Built whole communities for them. Had them working on all kinds of projects, including this stuff. And mind control, and sky spraying, everything. An underground fire heads towards a nuclear waste facility. The brush fire burned nearby. A waste spill has sent a new wave of radioactive waste into groundwater. An alleged arson recently set 7 churches on fire, prompting DHS to issue statements about domestic terrorism leaked to the nuclear facility. These events have had eyes on St. Louis. Those events have had eyes on St. Louis, where today most can't even speak today. Most headlines include St. Louis residents and former residents who fled, connected with the dots between what has been killing babies and adults there to area radioactive waste. You'll never forget the moment they tell you, we found lesions in your lung, in your liver. And I pay attention to those nuclear detection websites on the internet. You can look them up. And sometimes when I check that, I think a month ago, there were evacuation levels. 260 counts per minute or whatever. Did they warn the USA people? Maybe to stay indoors? To get some potassium or something to help cleanse your body? No. A big plume came across the United States, probably from Fukushima. Could be coming from different power plants. Could be coming from St. Louis. They're not doing anything to protect we the people, economically or anything. They do have a plan of a new world order. They're sky spraying us. They're building HAARP microwave transmitters. It's obvious they're doing the opposite of trying to help us. They're trying to destroy Christianity. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, it just keeps on getting crazy. I got an email from a friend of mine today, and it was kind of a funny one of those things about how bad Democrats are. And so he's still stuck on the party politics, whereas a lot of us understand that they're both controlled by the same party, and they're all bought and paid for, part of the problem, not part of the solution. But nevertheless, I got a thing here. I did donate money years ago to a Democratic politician. So now I get these Democratic emails, and I don't let them know that I'm not a Democrat. Neither am I a Republican. I'm a registered independent. Both parties are controlled. How can you belong to either one? And the presidents are selected, not elected, according to President Roosevelt. And we already know that our votes really don't matter. It's other people who actually vote for the president the Electoral College or something. Something I should investigate further to become more of an expert on. Nevertheless, I got this email from the 2016 Democratic victory. They want a donation. Election countdown. 3 days left. All gifts matched. Rush $10 now to elect Democrats. In the next 72 hours, we have a chance to absolutely humiliate the Tea Party. If there's anybody that's worth anything in politics, it's the Tea Party citizens out there, like me or anybody else who want to change the system. But they've demonized them. What did Nancy Pelosi say? We could just get rid of the Tea Party. We Republicans and Democrats, we Democrats and Republicans can get back to business. Democrats are just one seat away from ending the gap majority in the Virginia legislature, which they've used shamelessly to restrict voting rights, horrendously gerrymandering the congressional maps, and launch an all-out assault on Obamacare and women's health clinics. A win in Virginia on Tuesday's other top election battlegrounds would be a catastrophe for the Tea Party. So what they're saying is, we citizens won't have a chance. Now I thought I would look at one simple thing to remind everybody. Why do they hate Christianity? Why do they hate Jesus? Why do they hate God? We see what they're doing all over the world. Murdering, robbing, and we see all the pornographic stuff on the internet. You can't even check your email without a girl in the top right corner looking so sultry that as a human being, male, you can't take your... They understand how psychology works. You're trying to check your email, and here's this girl bent over washing her car, showing everything. And I've taken some pictures of that, and I'm going to show them in future videos. They're using psychology on us and our human-animal instincts. So here, I thought I would just remind everybody. These are the second tablet commandments, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These are the things that these New Agers, New World Order people hate. Thou shalt not kill. They don't agree with that. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Absolutely they don't agree with that. Thou shalt not steal. They don't agree with that. The New World Order is going to enslave everything. They are stealing everything we have. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. And I've known from my research that they've set up a lot of people, defamed them, accused them of things they weren't accused of. Thou shalt not covet. That means you greedily want something somebody else has. So they're completely opposed to these. The Aleister Crowley, do as thou wilt, is the opposite of these. 1 through 5. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. One God. God sent his Son, Jesus. God in his form is the Holy Spirit. They have different gods, pagan gods, mother goddess, earth goddess, Horus on the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill, Isis, Osiris, Lucifer, Satan, Baal, Ra. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven images. They have all kinds of these images of these Moloch god eating children. Look up Moloch images. Bohemian Grove, Alex Jones snuck in there. Gigantic owl. Washington, D.C. floor plan, street plan is designed like an owl. Obelisk in every city square. Thou shalt not make unto thy God any graven images. That's obelisk is for a god. In your city square, there's an obelisk out there. Thou shalt not take unto the name of thy God in vain. You shouldn't curse God. Remember the Sabbath day, keep it holy. There's a big argument there. The Sabbath day is the seventh day. That would be Saturday. And the Catholic Church, I grew up Catholic, has us going to church on Sunday. But remember, the Catholic Church, when they embraced Christianity, mixed it with their pagan religion to appease everybody. Had like a big, gigantic meeting, and everybody battled it out what they would have as holidays and all their agreements. So they mixed their embracing of Jesus' teaching with their pagan religions. Honor thy mother and thy father. That's a no-brainer, all of these. But remember, they want people to be, that's a good one to make note of right there. Honor thy mother and father, the bottom one. It does not say, honor thy mother and thy mother. The two lesbians there, who spend 40% more time with their children. So they would like people to believe. It says, honor thy father and thy mother. On a tablet given to Moses from God. It's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. So it's obvious that these people who are trying to perpetrate this new age social destruction are polluting our planet with sky spraying, radiation, legislation, Patriot Act, terrorism they're creating, microwave transmitters, Ebola plagues they're working on with those scientists they brought over from Germany in Project Paperclip, mind control with MK Ultra, Project Montauk, and so many more. Look up Miles Johnston on the Bases series. And some of the people who confessed what was happening to them while they were abducted or enslaved, or maybe even born into it. They would put babies in cages with big boa constrictors and let the boa constrictor eat the baby. Or even a lion. They were seeing how the animal and the little infant would react. And some of the big animals did not eat the baby. They would kind of try to cuddle it and take it as their own. But some of these people professed to seeing some very horrible things. They would tie people down and cut their feet off and just let the blood drain out slowly and watched what happened to them. Children. And then you got the royalty over in England being involved in pedophilia. The Franklin cover-up and people in powerful places in Chicago and the United States involved in pedophilia and human trafficking and sex and all that. Hollywood. All the people confessing on the internet, movie stars and other people, about the Illuminati. It's crazy. All right, now that we've discussed all that, on to the book. Here we go. Proofs of a Conspiracy. Professor Robinson revealed in his book that he had witnessed the Jesuits begin their inference in Freemasonry after the Jesuits were suppressed by the Pope in 1773. So Professor Robinson revealed in his book that he witnessed the Jesuits begin their interference in Freemasonry after the Jesuits were suppressed by the Pope in 1773. So the Jesuits were suppressed by the Pope in 1773. Wait a minute. Isn't the current Pope a Jesuit? And after the Pope suppressed them, they infiltrated and got themselves involved in Freemasonry. So we got Pope Francis, who's a Jesuit, who are the military arm of the Vatican, the enforcers, the assassins sometimes they're called. He stated that the Jesuits were using Freemasonry as a way of maintaining their power. Robinson perceived the separate influences of the Illuminati and the Jesuits within Freemasonry. I think I got 2 books by Mr. Robinson. So Robinson perceived the separate influences of the Illuminati and the Jesuits within Freemasonry. But he did not understand that these 2 organizations were 2 horns on the head of the same beastly cabal. We know they want to destroy Christianity. We've gone over a lot of videos since this one. John Torrell, founder and president of the European American Evangelistic Crusades, explains that the Illuminati was a reconstitution. The Illuminati was a reconstitution of the Jesuit order, which had been suppressed in 1773 by the Pope Clement XIV. Torrell further reveals that the Jesuit order was a reincarnation of the secret society known as the Alumbrados. The Alumbrados can be traced to 1492. It was organized by the Spanish Jews known as Marones. Oh my, I put my finger into that paragraph. Read that paragraph. I'm not trying to beat up the Jews. The Jews are trying to beat me up and the rest of us, according to the material. I'm not anti-Jew, but the Jews are anti-Christian, according to the material. So who's the anti or whatever? Look at those press releases by their press media. Salon.com, go look at it. JPost.com, the Jerusalem newspaper in English, go look at it. You won't need any convincing if you'll just go look at anybody. You or me or anybody. I get a little excited about some of this material because I see that the world, apparently that Fukushima stuff and the St. Louis stuff and the 2 lesbians with the baby and all those things we went over, they're trying to destroy my world, your world. How can somebody not get a little emotional? Doing a book review on Bloody Zion. Torrell states that Marranos were Jews who concealed the fact that they were Jews. And I've said this already. We've seen Obama and Bush go to the Wailing Wall. That's King Solomon's temple in Jerusalem, for people who don't know. They got a big wall that's left of the building. And they put the little tiny cap on their head. They put their hand on the wall and say prayers, and their head goes up and down and lay against the wall, the Wailing Wall. And Obama's been there with the little cap. Bush has been there with the little cap. So it just makes me wonder, and many other politicians and leaders, these Jews were concealing the fact that they were Jews. Are some of our political leaders really Jews and concealing that fact for their control of the world, for this New World Order plan, as George Bush continues to say over and over? Donald Trump's daughter marrying a Jewish person and they're converting, and the son is married a Jewish girl, and the daughter married a wealthy Jewish real estate mogul in New Jersey, and they're converting. How do you, when you convert to Judaism, is it a race? Is it a religion? Or is it a nationality? The Jews themselves say it's not a religion, because a lot of Jews are not religious. And it's not a race. They're different colors. Then what is it? And again, the only thing I can say, it's a cult of Lucifer, Satan, the devil. The snakesters, the banksters. And throughout cultures all over the world, the snake symbol, the dragon symbol is there. So maybe it's just they marry into these families with a different kind of DNA, and they don't have the same DNA as the rest of us. Maybe they are blue-blooded, cold-blooded, cold-hearted, evil entities that are predators. Just using my God-given brain, I subscribe to these commandments. Don't kill, don't do adultery, don't steal, don't bear false witness, and don't covet what other people have. One God, no graven images, don't take the Lord's God name in vain. Remember, keep the Sabbath, which I don't do a good job at. I'm working all the time trying to make a living. Honor thy mother and thy father. Not thy mother and thy mother, or thy father and thy father. And we are a Christian nation. If you don't think so, go look at your calendar. It says 2015. Look at your computer on the bottom right-hand side. It says 11/2/2015. That's 2015 years since Jesus was born. It doesn't say 5,723, the Jewish calendar. But they will get around to that. So the Torah states that the Marranos were Jews who concealed the fact that they were Jews in order to avoid persecution of Jews in Spain and Portugal, which began in 1391. This problem's been around for a long time, and it looks like it's about to become a head, and they are going to get their revenge of a couple thousand years on the world's people they call Goyim, apparently. Be a bloody, horrible, horrific revenge. Marranos became known as crypto-Jews because they concealed their Judaism. Terrell reveals that publicly these Jews appeared to be Roman Catholics. But secretly they practiced Judaism, including following the Talmud and the Kabbalah. And the Talmud says, the best of the Goyim shall be killed. Terrell states that, as is the custom of all Jewish people, it did not matter in what nation they lived. Their loyalty was to themselves and Judaism. So when Alan Greenspan was in charge of our Federal Reserve, their Federal Reserve, it's privately owned, and his loyalty was to Judaism, and they want to control the world and get rid of the Christians, remember, they're the ones when Pontius Pilate said, when they wanted Pontius Pilate, the Roman leader, to kill Jesus, he had one of those, oh my God moments. I don't want this on my head. And the Jews in the audience chanted, let it be on our heads and our children's heads. Oh my. They were dragging their children in on this to kill God's Son, who preached love and treat others as you would want to be treated, not killing and stealing and adultery and everything. That's not rocket science there. The TV programming, like Texas Rangers and other stuff I watch on TV, it's just becoming insanely horrific. Savage. It just doesn't stop with the murder and the shooting and the killing and beating up and over and over and over. And it says right here, first commandment on the second tablet, do not kill. And they just throw it at us, and do not steal, and they put it in all the TV shows and the movies over and over and over. You don't think it affects our minds, the children's minds, the young people's minds, the consciousness of the planet? Yes, it does. Torah states that, as is the custom with all Jewish people, it did not matter what nation they lived, their loyalty was to themselves and Judaism. So there are many smarter people out there than me. Page 197, that's what it says. You can pause it and read it. You're not going to like this. Page 199. The Jesuits immediately sought revenge against the Vatican and all the monarchs of Europe. And now we have a pope that's a Jesuit. The Jesuits immediately sought revenge against the Vatican and all the monarchs of Europe. Their first step was to reconstitute themselves in 1776 under the banner of the Illuminati. The United States was created in 1776. Coincidence? Torrell explains that the Illuminati was an alliance between the crypto-Jewish Jesuits, people who had inserted them in I guess spies in the Vatican, and the very powerful Ashkenazi Jewish banking house of Rothschilds. You notice like all this research just keeps verifying itself and verifying itself and verifying itself. Was a rabbinically trained German Jew. Meyer Amschel, the head of the house of Rothschilds, was a rabbinically trained German Jew who later took the name Rothschilds. I don't want to make this video too long, but I do want to kind of skip through some of the headlines of these other paragraphs. But these 2 pages seem pretty important, so I'll continue with this chapter. The crypto-Jewish Jesuit infiltration of Freemasonry has rendered Freemasonry a Gentile front for Jewish Illuminism. We're in trouble, folks. To ensure that crimes committed by Masons, this is Masons, are not prosecuted, Masonic lodges actively recruit members from the legal and law enforcement communities. So we citizens who are not Masons, not Jews, not Jesuits, not Illuminati, not Kabbalah people into witchcraft, not Hollywood banksters, publishers. To ensure that crimes committed by Masons are not prosecuted, Masonic lodges actively recruit members from the legal and law enforcement communities. Page 202. Stephen Knight, in his book Jack the Ripper, The Final Solution, documents that infiltration of police forces is a high priority within Freemasonry. Stephen Knight, in his book Jack the Ripper, The Final Solution, documents that infiltration of police forces is a high priority within Freemasonry. Oh my, we're in trouble. And I'm only reading my highlighted portions here. Go buy Edward Hendrie's book, Bloody Zion. Give credit where credit is due. As I've said in the past, after studying 10 or 11 years on any one subject, it could have been my goal to write books. But I saw a need of these books that people had spent years on, that had all the information. I didn't need to reinvent the wheel. Somebody needed to read these things and do some videos for people out there who don't have the time or the inkling to sit down and read thick books like this. I don't blame them. It's a lot of work. All of us are stressed trying to make a living. And they're making it harder intentionally, as I keep saying. Because of this, communities should not permit anyone who is a Mason to hold office of sheriff, judge, prosecutor, or police investigator. We know that they pledge allegiance under threat of death to protect each other, not to divulge any secrets, to obey the master. I've gone over this stuff. We went through our Blue Lodge handbook. 12 two-hour videos I read page by page, taking you into the Masonic Lodge and through the ritual. Because of this, community should not permit anyone who is a Mason to hold office. Sheriff, judge, prosecutor, or police investigator. When one hears of seemingly unexplainable behavior of a police, a judge, a prosecutor, or any politician that allows a criminal to go free, one should not overlook the hidden hand of Masonry. Well, that explains why they let criminals loose. Remember, Satan is their deity, their god. Lucifer, Horus, Isis, Osiris, Ra, Baal, Moloch, and many more names. Shiva, Kali. For example, Albert Pike, the sovereign grand commander of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, of the southern jurisdiction, USA, was convicted of treason. He was the general for the South in the Confederate War between the states. But in April 22, 1866, Pike was granted a full pardon by President Andrew Johnson. The next day, Pike visited the president in the White House. Pike visited Johnson again in 1867, after the impeachment proceedings had begun against Johnson. General Gordon Granger was present at the 1867 meeting and was summoned before the U.S. Congress to testify about the meeting. General Granger testified that Johnson and Pike discussed Masonry and that he understood from the conversation that Pike was Johnson's superior in Masonry. Shortly thereafter, in June 20th, 1867, a delegation of Masons granted Johnson the 4th through the 32nd degrees of Scottish Rite of Masonry in his bedroom at the White House. In his bedroom at the White House. This is some crazy stuff in this book. Go buy the book. I want to give credit where credit is due. I don't make any money off of this. Chapter 14. The love of money is the root of all evil. So I just wanted to touch on some of these chapters on this last video of this book. Like I said, I could make 6 more videos, but at some point we have to move on and people can go buy the book. Just as the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, we went over the protocols of Zion, just as the protocols of the learned elders of Zion provided, the Talmudic Jews controlled the money supply through the central bank, the Federal Reserve Bank. So these Talmudic Jews control the USA money supply. They clearly say the best of the goyim shall be killed, and we non-Jews are goyim. They conspired during World War I with the Balfour Agreement to get the Palestinians land in the Middle East. They control our money. They crashed the U.S. economic system at least 8 or 9 times since 1913, 100 years, taking all the wealth that people had worked for their whole lives for, hopefully to pass on to their families. That's what they didn't want. They crashed a system, a bubble popping, a depression, a recession, stock market collapse. And people can't pay their bills. People lose their fortunes. Now they're passing legislation and all this global warming, sustainability. They want to destroy us Christians and other good people. And they have plans, and they control our politicians. They control the Democrats. They control the Republicans. Half the Supreme Court is Jewish now, almost. They've infiltrated everything. They say it here. Smarter guy than I wrote this book. So the Talmudic Jews controlled the money supply through the central bank. From after World War I to like 1970 something, you can look this up, $90 billion in aid was given to that little dot on the map of Israel. During that same period of time, the whole world did not get $90 billion. They control our politicians. They control the Federal Reserve. They've been using that money and other money to buy up everything on the planet. Congressman McFadden stated, the Depression was not accidental. Smarter people than me have been saying these things. I've been learning by reading these books. So the Depression was not accidental. And up to World War I, there was a depression. They had control of the population. Up to World War II, there was a depression. They control the population. They're planning World War III, and we're having a depression. They do the same thing over and over. They get everybody so stressed out, so distracted, so worried, so sick, so ill. And in this case, they're sky spraying us. Chemicals. Who knows what they're putting in the children's cereal? The milk, the hormones, the meat, the vegetables, Monsanto. They've taken Monsanto foods and fed them to rats. And you can go look it up. And they had big tumors and lesions and cancers all over the body of the rats. Many countries all over the world have banned Monsanto seeds and products. But the United States, under the control of these Talmudic Jewish folks, Zionism, Jesuits, Freemasons, swearing allegiance under threat of death to keep everything secret, they allow Monsanto products in the United States, and why not? You're spraying us with aluminum, barium, and strontium, and all kinds of other toxins, and that sticky stuff that you can look up on the YouTube. A couple days ago, yesterday, in Texas, which could have biologicals attached to it, plagues or whatever else, sprayed from planes. Look like Halloween sticky stuff on telephone wires and trees and fences. And these people control everything. Jade Helm dispersing troops all over the United States. Threats on the internet of earthquakes all over the world. They have the HARP system. They can cause that. Just saying, that's true. Nikola Tesla said he could crack the earth in half with his technology. And he used to get on stage saying he wasn't the genius. He was having conversations or visions or information from the other side. And they would run up on the stage and pull him down. Not saying he wasn't a smart guy, but he said he was communicating with the beyond, which I found out a lot of the world's most popular people. Edgar Casey, Michelangelo, Newton, Einstein, Jewish guy. Communicating with the Kabbalah, magic, magicians, witchcraft. We're fighting a battle with something on a level that most of us can't fathom. Can we agree on that? And they're claiming it's UFO and aliens. Like I said, on my future videos, we're going to get into that stuff. So they control the Federal Reserve. The Depression was not accidental, according to Congressman McFadden. It was a carefully contrived occurrence. Like I said, when they crash the system the next time, this is November 2nd, 2015. It could be tomorrow. It could be before Christmas. It could be February, March. But they will, assuredly, after they get everybody off guard. And people will have less money, less control, less power, less health. It's a plan. You don't believe me? Go outside and look up. Who has the right to be dumping chemicals on our heads? Putting fluoride in our water, which Harvard did a study, said it definitely lowers the IQ. The international bankers sought to bring about a condition of despair here so that they might emerge as the rulers of us all. Moving on. God admonished the Jews against the destructive practice of usury. Even Jesus overthrew the money changers' table. They had Jesus tortured, murdered in a horrible manner. The Son of God. Why would the Jews ignore the commands of God against usury? They ignored God's commands because the Orthodox Jews do not follow the Old Testament. They have replaced God's law with their traditions. They follow their oral traditions, which is in part have been memorialized in the Talmud. We've talked about that. It says in there the best of the goyim can be killed. And there's sexual things they can do to 3-year-old non-Jewish children. Isaac Shehak explains that although the Talmud forbids a Jew, on pain of severe punishment, to take interest on a loan made to another Jew, the rabbis have figured a contrivance to get around that restriction. So they have laws that they can't charge each other interest. A business dispensation called Heter Esquire was devised as an interest-bearing loan between Jews. In any event, the Talmud grants a license to charge interest to Gentiles. According to a majority of Talmudic authorities, it is a religious duty to take as much interest as possible on a loan made to a Gentile. They control our Federal Reserve. It says here, according to the majority of the Talmudic authorities, it is a religious duty for them to take as much interest as possible on a loan made to Gentiles. So they're controlling our Federal Reserve, and it's their religious duty to charge our government, we the people, as much interest as they can. And they want to get rid of Christianity, and they want to have this kind of religion enforced all over the world. The influence of the Talmud over the Jewish banking practices is witnessed by the fact that when Alan Greenspan, who is an atheist Jew, took his oath of office as chairman of President Nixon's Council of Economic Advisors, he did so on the volume of the Talmud. So when, think about this. When Alan Greenspan took office and put his hand on a Bible, he didn't use a Christian Bible or even the Jewish Bible. He used the Talmud that says the best of the goyim are to be killed, and sex with a 3-year-old is okay, and much more horrific materials. Charge as much interest as you can to the goyim. So he wanted to swear his oath on that Talmud. I bet he had his fingers crossed behind his back, which is one of the rules they have to do. When they promise you something, they're lying, deceiving. Not all Jews, of course. He later went on to be appointed chairman of the Federal Reserve by Ronald Reagan. Greenspan was instrumental in creating a housing crisis. See, I told you. When they crash everything, when they take the money, charge high interest rates, and prevent us non-Jews from having any ability to make money or borrow money, we can't pay our payments, they can buy everything up on pennies of the dollar, and then after they let everything get back to normal, they can let us buy everything again, crash it again, take it all from us on pennies on the dollar, let us buy another generation, our children's children, and then our children's children will get stuck in the same cycle, and then their children will be stuck in the same cycle. And for the last 100 years, they did it 7, 8, or 9 times. It's documented. I've read it. And everything I read, everything I do, I got binders and boxes and everything. I keep copies of everything. I do hard copies. Was instrumental in creating the housing crisis and resulting economic collapse of 2006 and 2008 that saw the transfer of wealth from the middle class to the upper class. They gave themselves trillions. All right, so, well, we did that one there. Zionism is communism. Chapter 15. Like I said, I just want to touch bases on some of these other chapters to finish this video on this book. Move on to something else. Zionism is communism. The fact that communism is actually a religious philosophy born of the Talmud and put into practice has been concealed from the ignorant Gentiles, non-Jews. In 1971, White House recording released by the National Archives in 1999, President Richard Nixon revealed the only two non-Jews in the communist conspiracy were Chambers and Hess. Every other one was a Jew, and it raised hell with us. So the Communist Party, that would have been Russia, China, the leaders are Jews. You don't think China's a threat? China's under their control. 1 billion people plus. And they paint us Americans as not very good people. You know, just imagine the press releases with the gay parades. That one guy carrying the sign, "I bet hell is fabulous." They can convince all those Chinese people that we are little devils. With all the decadent teaching and drugs and all the stuff they portray in movies about us, they make us look very bad. So then you tell that to 1 billion Chinese people, that America, who has borrowed all that money from you, can't pay us. We're going to go foreclose on the United States of America. And you can have anything you want when you get over there. You can kill a family and take their home. Would they do it? This is how these people do their religious escapades, plans. They're Satanists, they're Luciferians, they're demonic. Look what they're doing all over the world with all those, they call them Muslims, but how about calling them Arabs? They're all not Islamic. Who knows what they are? Everybody's fleeing the Middle East. A certain population of them are Christians, atheists, Buddhist, Hindu, Islamist. They're Arabs. Somebody wants that country, all the natural resources, all the oil, all the money, to build their new world order. Many think that Zionism is a struggle by the Jews for a homeland. Zionism is much more than the Jews establishing a homeland. That is merely a cover for a much grander plan to rule the world. Zionism is the child of the Talmud, and the Talmud is communism. Communism is socialism. All the people on the dole, Social Security, which is work we need in America. But people who are young who can work, fake an ailment or whatever. Food stamps, taking away the jobs, shipping them to China, causing everybody to be on socialism. And of course, where are you going to get the money from? There just isn't a money tree. There isn't an endless amount of money. And taking away our ability to farm and have factories and do things. Creating so much legislation that a normal guy like me, a businessman, couldn't go into business or start something up anyways. But them with their corporate connections and political connections can get around all those laws. A communist revolution in Russia was planned, we know that, and executed by Jews according to the doctrines of the Talmud. That would be the Bolsheviks, where they proceeded to kill 100 million people, so they say. 25 million admitted in the newspaper in Jerusalem, Israel. Mostly Christians, tore down the Christian churches, did not destroy the Jewish temples. Says it all. And even if a Jewish judge, sitting up there on the throne there, hearing a court hearing, because they were persecuting and prosecuting all the non-Jewish people. But if he gave any leniency to a goyim, a non-Jew, the people watching everything would pull him down and kill him. So their law does not permit them to have mercy or be lenient on anybody. So when they take over the world, that is their philosophy. Their law prohibits them from being merciful, lenient. They will be punished if they are. You just read here where the law says they have to charge as much interest as they can from us. And the Talmud says the best of the goyim shall be killed. Communism is essentially Talmudic Judaism. The esoteric communism portrays itself as an atheistic political movement. The persecution of the Christian churches, wherever communism have been brought to power, seems to prove that point. We just read there, I mean, more and more blatant material coming out of their hatred of Christians. I write on my book here when I'm finished with a chapter what video I wrote that talked about it in, so I would know in the future. Let's see what it says here. Alright, here you go. Ready for this? They talk about anti-Semites. Well, let's talk about anti-Semites. Let's talk about Semites. What is a Semite? It's like I like to talk about Arabs. What's a Muslim? Islam. Christian Arab. Atheist Arab. Buddhist Arab. Hindu Arab. It's almost a whole continent. America's not made up of just Christians. They're trying to destroy Christianity. They ban Christmas. But they give us all this Talmudic and Halloween satanic stuff. Semitics are those who are descended from Shem, the oldest son of Noah. Most Jews living in Israel and throughout the world today are Eastern European, converts to a religion that they call Judaism, but in fact is the Babylonian Talmudism. That would be the secret mystery school of Babylon, which is the all-seeing eye pyramid, which is basically the light bearer called Lucifer. As we know, the Vatican has a telescope in the United States, Arizona, called Lucifer. We know in my previous videos they put a big goat on the Hoover Dam. The card game Illuminati has the Hoover Dam being demolished. The card game Illuminati has the Twin Towers being demolished. The card game Illuminati, go look it up, has a lot of the things that have happened displayed on those cards before they happened. There's much more here going on. Most Jews living in Israel and throughout the world are Eastern European white people, not Jewish. But they are into what I call witchcraft, if you want a summary of what it is. The all-seeing eye pyramid, Rosicrucian, Kabbalah. It's witchcraft. Demonic being worship. It's like a mafia. They want to rule everything and enslave everybody. And they're very perverted in their sexual things they do. Not good for us. And they're the ones, most of the people, half of the people on the Supreme Court are Jewish. It says in this book their allegiance is to Judaism over anything else. And not all Jews, of course. Some of the Jews are fighting this battle, trying to warn the rest of us. We've gone over their books. Look up Zionism and images. You'll see some of those people with big banners and protests and trying to tell us the evil is Zionism, the evil Jews who embrace Lucifer, Satan, Kabbalah, Rosicrucian, Hollywoodism, with all that crazy, insane programming we have to watch on TV. Suppose we don't have to. We just turn off the boob tube completely. But who's going to do that? Most Jews living in Israel and throughout the world today are Eastern converts to a religion that they call Judaism, but in fact the Babylonian Talmudism. The Europeans who later converted to this Babylonian form of Judaism are known as the Ashkenazi, or Kaiser Jews from the Kaiser region. Dr. Benjamin Friedman, a former Jew, states that the Kaisers were a pagan nation. Says it right here. Ten Commandments. Top one, number one, there shall be no other gods before me. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. So you can't, when you're pagan and you have all these other gods, when God gave the tablets to Moses, that's what it said. So they were telling these people, you can't have other gods. But now these people who are not even Jewish, are white, are claiming to be Jews. And in Revelation 9, I think, it says Jews who call themselves Jews but are not. The evidence is clear. We're in trouble. Agenda 21, Common Core, Jade Helm, 911, Oklahoma City bombing, all the crisis actors and all those shootings, Batman movie, where the evil person in the Batman movie was Bane. The president or candidate, Romney, his corporation, he did all those criminal things in the health field, was called Bane. You don't think all this is connected? Dr. Benjamin Friedman, a former Jew, states that the Khazars were a pagan nation. Number one commandment on the tablets is, one, no other God before me, whose religious worship was a mixture of phallic worship. Look at your city square downtown. You got an obelisk out there that's representative of a god. Phallic worship, and they did make it illegal to ban gay marriage in all states. Phallic worship. And we saw that document where the propaganda says that lesbian women spend 40% more time with their kids. Did it say gay, or did it include male couples? So phallic worship and other forms of idolatry. It says it right here on the tablets here. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven images. Number two commandment. No idols. So we got those obelisks in our city squares, which is a phallic thing for a god. How many people know that? In the 7th century, their king Bukum chose Talmudism, which most now call Judaism, as the state religion. Today, Khazar Jews are called Yiddish Jews. Those are the ones during the 1920s that Henry Ford wrote about in his book that were arrogant and taunting and teasing and making fun of us citizens of America, rampaging our country, doing whatever they could do to take over the businesses, movie theaters, publishing, and everything else. Liquor stills in Kentucky, Tennessee, then moving the production of the booze, liquor to Louisville or Chicago, mixing it with toxic chemicals, and causing all kinds of raving maniacs and people losing their minds and their eyesight, probably causing prohibition. People don't know that. These Ashkenazi Jews are people without any allegiance to any nation. Alan Greenspan? Chernoff, Homeland Security leader at one time. All these people, who's in charge of the Federal Reserve now? All these Jewish advisors to our presidents and running our country. These Ashkenazi Jews are people without any allegiance to any nation. Page 221. Their primary objection is to own the entire world. To get an idea of the nefarious objectives of these Talmudists, let us read an 1879 letter from Baruch Levi to Karl Marx. We all know who Karl Marx is. The Jewish people as a whole will be its own Messiah. The Jewish people as a whole will be its own Messiah. It will attain world domination by the dissolution of other races and by the abolition of frontiers and the annihilation of monarchy and the establishment of a world republic in which the Jews will everywhere exercise the privilege of citizenship. In this new world order, the children of Israel will furnish all the leaders, without encountering opposition. In this new world order, the children of Israel will furnish all the leaders without encountering opposition. So these Jewish people are going to be all of our leaders without any opposition. The governments of the different peoples forming the world republic will fall without difficulty into the hands of the Jews. It will then be possible for the Jewish rulers to abolish private property and everywhere to make use of the resources of the state. Thus will the promise of the Talmud be fulfilled, in which it is said that when the Masonic time is come, the Jews will have all the property of the whole world in their hands. A little bit more in this chapter. Many think that communism could not be the work of Talmudic Jews because Russia is allied with the Arab countries. Things, however, are not what they appear. Amen to that. Things are not what they appear. Jack Bernstein, an American Ashkenazi Jew, who moved to Israel shortly after its founding in 1948, returned in disgust to the United States after witnessing the duplicity of Israel. We went over that book. He revealed that the Aboriginal Jews of Palestine, who are called Sephardic Jews, are discriminated against in modern Israel. So the real Jews are discriminated against in modern Israel. They are second-class citizens at the bottom strata of society in Israel, along with Christians and Muslims. In his book, The Life of an American Jew in Racist Marxist Israel, explains the Machiavellian strategy of Israel. Oh my. Well, day 2 on this video, continuation of Bloody Zion. Edward Hendrie. Published on, always like to check the dates, 2012. Crazy chapter next. Here we go. When the Zionist Jews gain control of their world government, they will not allow for any religion other than their religion. So once they gain control, the only religion in the world will be their religion. And that's in the Protocols of Zion 14. When we come into our kingdom, it will be undesirable for us that there should exist any other religion than ours of the one God, with whom our destiny is bound up by our position as the chosen people, through whom our same destiny is united with the destinies of the world. We must therefore sweep away all other forms of belief. Oh my! It's page 224. Our philosophers will discuss all the shortcomings of the various beliefs of the Goyim, that would be non-Jews, but no one will ever bring under discussion our faith from its true point of view. No one will ever bring under discussion our faith from its true point of view, since this will be fully learned by none save ours, who will never dare to betray its secrets. Well, I got a secret to share right now. Thought I'd read a little more from Satan praised as wickedly cool in yet another liberal media anti-Christian manifesto. Go look this up on Salon.com. That would be SALON.com. Ready for this? I didn't read the whole document before, but I was looking at it again and I said, oh my. However, let's suppose the Lord did exist. His ghastly roster of atrocities aside, he would be mankind's sworn enemy, if only because he plans, per the book of Revelation, to destroy the majority of us in an orgy of fire and brimstone. Well, if you're worshiping Satan, that might be the case. Playing with 3-year-old children sexually is definitely wrong. Murder is wrong. Theft is wrong. Adultery is wrong. All the things that the people into the pornographic industry and the movies and the media are promoting appears to be wrong. Up is down. Down is up. Moving on. Sparing only his toadies and sycophants. So anybody that God spares will be his toadies. So when Jesus died on the cross, so our sins could be forgiven if we believed in him, they're calling we Christians toadies. Now these Jewish people can choose to believe in Jesus also. Anybody can. I'm not a religious scholar. I'm just reading this document that Satan praised as wickedly cool. If anybody thinks that is a correct thing to think, they should get on their medications. Check into a mental institution. Satan is the devil. We've seen enough movies. When you make a deal with the devil, in the end he betrays you. Moving on this document. We would thus be entirely justified in fighting this purportedly omnipotent foe. So God is an omnipotent foe, and we would need all the help we could get. So they want to fight God. It says it all right there, what we're dealing with. But there's more. Who might be up to the task to fight God? The only one with experience in combating the Almighty, his arch-enemy Satan. I wouldn't be believing this if I wasn't reading it, holding it in my hand, and you could go look it up. If you told me this, I'd say you're nuts. Of course, I'm talking to anybody who might be watching this video when I say you. Satan, at least according to the literature, has proved no slouch in fighting the Lord, thwarting his allegedly love-filled, but in fact baneful designs on us in enduring banishment, the dispersion, or dispersia. The Jews had been roamed all over the world, taken up home in many countries all over the world, who welcomed them until they wore out their welcome. Why is that? Enduring banishment from his eternal homeland, his ethereal homeland. All because he refuses to submit to divine tyranny. So Satan was kicked out of heaven because he refused to submit to divine tyranny. You know the story. God supposedly booted Satan out of heaven for leading a revolt of his fellow angels. Outraged by God's undemocratic, Hague-worthy governance and disdainful trampling over their rights. Look what they do with democracy now. They got all the people brainwashed, believing in garbage. That's what good democracy is. The freedom for the evil-owned media and TV and movies to deceive the people. Let's not forget the same-sex parents spend more time with their kids' study finds that we looked at earlier in this video. Now, who in their right mind would believe that? Thousands of years. And as we've discussed before, to make a point on this, it says in the Ten Commandments on the bottom one, honor thy mother and father. Anybody who is born must have a mother and a father. 2 men cannot a baby make. 2 women cannot a baby make. I'm not talking about artificial insemination. You still need to get it from a man. Or in a test tube, you still have to put the ovary, the egg, the sperm of a man in the test tube. And it doesn't say, honor thy father and thy mother, or honor thy father and thy father, or thy mother and thy mother. If that was the case, on the 10 Commandments, it would be there. Satan is not wickedly cool. Propaganda is crazy. So here we go back to this. Why would they keep their religion a secret, like it says? No one will discuss it. It is because their religion is a mystical worship of Satan. That fact must be kept secret until they have full control of all of the organs of government. According to John Torrell, in the Jewish Kabbalah, the Jewish God consists of 1 male being and 1 female being. So even the Jewish God consists of a male and a female. Not a male and a male, or a female and a female. Get it? Got it? Don't believe the deception. The male part of the Jewish God, called Ensof by the Kabbalist, withdrew himself into himself and created a vacuum in his own structure, which created a bottomless pit. This abyss is called the Kelipot by the Kabbalist. The Kabbalah teaches that the female part of the Jewish God has fallen into this pit and has taken the form of the holy serpent. The Kabbalah further teaches that the holy serpent is surrounded by evil spirits, and she is tempted at all times. The Holy Spirit is trying to set herself free from the bottomless pit. Once she does this, she can enter the earth as the Messiah. Are they trying to use CERN, the collider, on the border of Switzerland and France, Geneva, to open up this pit with the logo 666? It's crazy, you know. What's it going to take for people to see the truth? With Madonna, the singer, and her grotesque dancing and performances is into the Kabbalah, and many others. So listen to this. The Kabbalists teach that the Messiah will only appear on earth in one of 2 ways. One way is for the Kabbalist Jews to destroy all evil on the earth and make it totally good. The other alternative is for the Kabbalist Jews to destroy all good on earth and make it totally evil. Did you just hear the words coming out of my mouth? And yes, I remember hearing those words in a movie. Was it Jackie Chan? The other alternative is for the Kabbalist Jews to destroy all good on earth and make it totally evil. Hence we have the gay agenda and everything else. If the Kabbalah, the Bible of these Zionist, Talmudic, evildoer Jews, not all Jews, of course. It's hard to believe this stuff. Smarter people than me have done research. And like I said in my future videos, we're going to get more into this Kabbalah, occultic, black ops scientific research, mind control, zombifying humans, fluoride in the water, fluoride in the toothpaste, what's in the food, Monsanto, seeds, genetically modified, not good for the human body. I could go on and on. Sky spraying, HARP systems. The Kabbalist Jews have decided that it is harder to make things good, so they have chosen the alternative of destroying all goodness and making the world evil. So does anybody need an explanation for the TV programming and all the other activities going on, coming out of the United Nations and the leaderships of the media and the banking system, police forces, governors, senators, creating situations, making it difficult for all of us? This Kabbalah religion is grounded on the commission of sins in order to bring about the ascension of their Messiah. The holy serpent, out of the bottomless pit to make her appearance on earth. Her appearance on earth. Now you know why they talk a lot in the New Age about Mother Goddess, the Earth Goddess. The earth is alive. These Jews believe that only by breaking the laws of God can they serve their God. If this is what they believe, and apparently it's true, we are in trouble. And we Christians are in big trouble. Because the anti-Satan, as it says in this document here, book, and in the Bible, elsewhere, that Satan and some angels were booted out of heaven. So their arch enemy would be God. Do not think that Jews are ignorant of the fact that Satan is the god of their religion. So the Jews know that Satan is the god of their religion. Harold Wallace Rosenthal, administrative assistant to the United States Senator from New York, Jacob Javits, in a 1976 interview with Walter White Jr. stated, "Most Jews do not like to admit it, but our God is Lucifer." That explains the revelation of Albert Pike, Morals and Dogma, leader of the Freemasons, general for the South during the war between the North and the South. That explains the revelation of Albert Pike, the theological pontiff of Freemasonry, in his doctrinal Bible of Masonry, that the God of Freemasonry is Lucifer. The evidence is that Freemasonry flows from Kabbalistic Judaism. It makes sense that the God of Freemasonry would be the same as the God of the religion upon which it is based. Jesus was not using hyperbole when he told the Jews, "Ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do." Makes one understand why they're into the pedophilia, homosexuality, adultery, bisexuality, pansexuality, making sex with anything, transgenderism, bender gender that they're trying to teach in the schools, that the boys can come dressed up as girls and the girls can come dressed up as boys. Let's all pretend we're the other sex day. Bender gender. I showed that in one of my other videos, so you can look it up. I'm sure you'll find it. The modern day Pharisees go to great lengths not only to sin themselves, but also to lead as many others into sin as they serve their evil god Satan. So what did it say in this document over here on the bottom? Where Satan praised as wickedly cool. It says here, we would thus be entirely justified in fighting this purportedly omnipotent foe, and we would need all the help we can get. So the Satanists are on a recruiting binge, trying to get the rest of us earthlings, Christians, and other people to join their satanic cult. Is there another answer? There is a comment section below this video. If there's another answer, leave a comment. I don't think there'll be any comments. The truth is the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Believing in Jesus, that he was born, died on the cross for our sins, was risen again, all that's in the Bible, which I should study that more also. But believing in Jesus, having faith in Jesus, is the key, and trying to do good. We're all sinners. Nobody's exempted from that. We all make mistakes. We'll make mistakes tomorrow. We made mistakes yesterday. We're human. But we don't have to take pride in mistakes. We can try to do better. We can ask forgiveness for mistakes. We all get tempted. And the tempting forces, demonic forces, are at work. It's hard. The TV, media, programming, it's a battle. An awesome battle against humanity. Insidious. The evidence is that Freemasonry flows from the Kabbalist Judaism. I've said in the past, when I started these videos a couple years ago, and I chose that name for this series, Freemasonry and Satanism, for my book review series, I didn't realize how right I was. I didn't know what I know now. Jesus revealed their nature when he said to the Pharisees, "Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye compass sea and land to make one proselyte, and when he is made, you make him twofold more the child of hell as yourself." Not quite sure what that word is. Proselyte. Be kind, look it up, and leave a comment in my comment section, and I'll know what that word means. The fact that Judaism is a religion of sin and rebellion that embraces evil is confirmed by Jewish rabbi David Cooper, who spent 8 years studying the Kabbalah in Jerusalem's Old City. The lesson is that even the heart of Satan has a divine spark. Even the heart of evil yearns to be redeemed. This is important because we learn that our job is not to set up the battleground to eradicate evil, but search out its spark of holiness. Our task is not to destroy, but to build. So we don't have to join these groups. and not think with our brains about killing them, but pray for them. God can do God's job. But we should pray for them, that they find a way back. Be bigger than allowing them to create hate in us. We do not want to become hateful people. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. So if you want to pray for them, then what you would want is would want people to pray for you. If you want to hate them, then you would want they to hate you. It's hard, I know. The mystical teaching of the Baal, Shem Tov, however, presents us with a new paradigm. It says that evil has a divine nature within it. As the Zohar describes, there is no spark of the other side evil that entirely lacks some streak of light from the side of holiness. Rather than destroy it, our task is to uplift it. The purposefulness, sometimes I don't read so well, so please bear with me. The purposefulness, promotion of evil by Jews is the reason we find vice, death, and destruction at every turn of the Zionist screw. Go watch Texas Rangers, and you'll see a lot of death, vice, and destruction at every turn of the channel. Just amazes me they can make human beings to seem so horrible, so mentally ill. It takes a lot of sick producers to come up with all that material. Texas Rangers, like a Stephen King novel. That's what I see. And then they got that symbolism, the star and the circle around it. Looks like a witch's symbol. And now they have an I and an S on the star. Not just Texas Rangers, pretty much all of them. Murder, killing, close-up bullet impacts, taking off limbs, torturing people. All kinds of horrible stuff. You'd think they could make nicer movies. Near the top of the Zionist power pyramid, we find the Rothschild banking family. All this stuff that I've been talking about, book after book after book after book, seems to coincide with each other. It all matches. It's all true. It's all the same. Once you learn the truth, everything you read is going to fit into place like a piece of a puzzle. Henry Mackay, here's another name we've been reading, his book, Illuminati, the Cult That Hijacked the World. We went over that book. Henry Mackay reveals that Rothschilds were Sabbatean Frankists. Well, so does Rabbi Marvin Antelman in his two books, Volume 1 and Volume 2, to eliminate the opate. The opate means to believe in God, to receive comfort from your faith in God. They want to eliminate that, like all this says here, which is a sect of Judaism. Sabbatans are followers of Rabbi Sabbatai Zivi, 1626, 1676, 500 years ago. We got problems. These people are not quitting their evil Lucifer, Satan game. And now they have technologies from hell. Satellites that can see anything, computers and other things that can hear and document everything. Every time you swipe your debit card, credit card. Everywhere you go, cell phone tracking, all mapping, and compiled and recorded. And now they want to microchip everybody. It's going to get worse. And they're using programs like Agenda 21, Common Core, terrorism threats, crisis actors with school shootings and stuff like that. Fake wars, creating the wars. Frank was a popular Jewish Kabbalist who claimed to be the reincarnation of Zabbatai Zevi. Sabbat and Frankists are characterized by their liberated sexual practices, incest, pedophilia. Here we go again. Again and again and again. I think, was it over there in London that they were investigating a child trafficking pedophilia ring? And they discovered it went all the way up to the top, to the royal families probably. So they had to cease and desist of the investigation for national security reasons. They believed the Messiah would return only when the world descended into sin and chaos. So we know why they're trying to take us down into the pit of sin and chaos. They believe their Messiah, Satan, will rise from the bottomless pit. They would advance this process. Sabbat and Frankists adhered to the code of what has been prohibited would be allowed. So what has been prohibited would be allowed. Things that were deemed evil when I grew up and bad are now promoted as good. And if you're good, they think you're a hater. If you believe in God, the Ten Commandments, you're a hater. Adultery, incest, and pedophilia is now allowed. This is the occult origin of our sexual liberation. They want a revolution, all right, and to liberate everybody, but it's not what people think. Inspired by the Kabbalah, they practice holiness through sin. Good would come through the annihilation of Western civilization and the triumph of evil. Oh my. Surely Satan has an end in mind for constructing such a sinister religious doctrine. He does, and it is nothing short of subjugation of all men under the dictatorial rule of his Antichrist. He uses the escalating sin and crime in society as a justification to bring about more government regulation and control of the masses. As explained by Edmund Burke, men are qualified for civil liberty in exact proportion to their disposition to put moral chains on their own appetites. Wow. Men are qualified for civil liberty in exact proportion to their disposition to put moral chains on their own appetites. Society cannot exist unless a controlling power upon will and appetite be placed somewhere. So for society to be a humane, decent society, there needs to be a controlling power upon will and appetite. We can't just do anything we want, like Aleister Crowley, the evilest man alive, they say, who bragged about killing children and sex with children and other things, possibly drinking their blood, and witchcraft practices, rituals, like the Bohemian Grove, where Alex Jones stuck in there with his camera, videoed the grown men, people like Bush and Reagan and Kissinger were CEOs of large corporations, go there for this summer ritual, cremation of care. So they dress up in long robes, apparently naked underneath, ship in gay men for some kind of satanic ritual sex, screeching and hollering. It's unbelievable. Watch the video yourself. Throwing a baby into a fire and a statue of a gigantic owl called Moloch. Alex Jones, Bohemian Grove video. Search it. You'll find it. YouTube. Watch it for yourself if you want to be creeped out. You can just imagine how much of this goes on secret all over the world during these satanic rituals, which I am being led to believe they have these holidays or dates, like we have Christmas and Easter. They have these satanic holiday rituals which require sacrifices, killing people, 8 times a year. 40, 60, something thousand children become up missing every year. Some of the documented numbers I've heard. Insane, you think? So society cannot exist unless a controlling power upon will and appetite be placed somewhere. And the less of it there is within, the more there is without. It is ordained in the eternal constitution of things that men of intemperate minds cannot be free. Their passions forge their fetters. Oh my. There's more here. This evil doctrine can be seen in the Talmud, where incest, fornication, adultery, etc. are promoted as virtues and something to be desired. It is difficult for the Gentile world to fully comprehend what is happening in this Jewish netherworld of conspiracy unless they understand the nature of Kabbalistic Judaism. It is a religion that is based on the promotion, propagation, and commission of sin as a means of world domination. I only read the top right paragraph. There's so much I have highlighted. And I do have a goal to show you the names of the other chapters. It's page after page I have highlighted. 231. The secret aim of Judaism is the same as Freemasonry. 231. I'm just skipping through this. Page 235. The Jews themselves in their devilish religion. So this wouldn't be all Jews are into this. Old Testament Jews or Jews who converted to Christianity. Even Jews or atheists are not into this. Some Jews might have converted to Buddhism, Islam, Hindu. But the ones that are into this admit that their God is serpent. Their leaders well know that this is the devil or Satan. In some type of creepy and eerie doctrinal confession, the rabbis are even discovered to be boasting of their sacred serpent, and they say that all Jews live inside its belly. Is this not unbelievable and revealing? Like I said, there's so much I'm skipping here. Go buy this book. This book alone. But the reason I did so many books is to give a diversified accounting of my seeking the truth. I didn't want to just go to one book. Catholic Judaism. Dr. Chinka Flint explains that the Kabbalah contains an esoteric revelation that the Messiah of the Jews is to be possessed by the Holy Serpent. So Jesus was possessed by the Holy Spirit, maybe? The Holy Father? So the Antichrist would be possessed by the Holy Serpent. This seems to be a reference to the Antichrist being possessed by Satan. So, if anybody has any trouble understanding possession, We know that Jesus cast out demons 12 times in the Bible. We know that the Church, Catholic Church, trains exorcists, and have had to train more than usual lately to go around the world casting out possessed people. And greater of all truths that prove that this is all a reality is that we are spiritual beings in these biological bodies. If you think not, go to any hospital, speak to the doctors and nurses. Ask them about the spirits they see, the energy leaving the body when it dies. Talk to people about when children die and are brought back to life in out-of-body experience or after near-death experiences, and the tunnel and the people they talk to, people they never met, grandparents. I've got books on this subject. I've done psychic research for 5 years before I ever got into this other stuff, conspiracy theory. I'm an electronic engineering technician trained, worked at a major aerospace company. I was interested in seeking at alternative energies, anti-gravity, as a scientist, as a technician. That was my dream since a little boy. But then I came across the fact that the government and the people who run our government are all into this occultic material. It opened up a whole new research area for me. Moving on Catholic Judaism. And if I haven't said it before, which I have, I grew up Catholic, used to attend church semi-regularly as an adult, went to private Catholic school for a while when I was young. So I learned a little bit. So anyways, the Antichrist or beast, given the number 666, Revelation 13, who is to wreak havoc and usher in an age of horrors. So if anybody wonders, when Jesus was born, that was the age of Pisces. About 2,000 years, these astrological signs. Anyways, as many people know and remember the song, Age of Aquarius, we're entering the Age of Aquarius. So I'm just wondering, is the Age of Aquarius also the Age of Horrors? His power, the scriptures say, comes from the dragon and the serpent Satan. Page 262. And I skipped several pages. I'm only looking at my highlighted sections. Go buy the book. Spend a couple months reading this book and researching the data and verifying its authenticity, truthfulness. It is no surprise to see the protocols use Pope to describe their coming Antichrist world ruler. What is at the root of the traditions of the Roman Catholic Church? It is the Jewish Kabbalah. Kabbalah is a Hebrew word which literally translated means tradition. Well, that's the teachings from the Talmud, is tradition, oral tradition. Nesta Webster, in her classic book, Secret Societies and Subversive Movements, we just went over all that, and we've got one more video to do on that, the last part of her book called Conclusions. I'm saving that for last, after I get done all this Zionist research books. Conclusions. Nesta Webster explains how the Jewish theology of the Kabbalah was introduced into the Roman Catholic Church by Pope Sixtus IV in 1471 to 1484. So for the last 500 years, I don't think anybody will deny, wars and wars and more wars. And that's funny, 1471 to 1484. But prior to that, 1000 to 1300, they had the 8 crusades into the Middle East, where they went there 8 times. took over all the castles along the coast and inland, and slaughtered all the Arabs. Even split open the guts of the men, women, and children to find out if they tried to protect or save a piece of gold they had by swallowing it. Pope Sixtus use of the Kabbalah was not the institution of something new, but rather a progression of Judaic principles in the Catholic Church. This author's book, Solving the Mysteries of Babylon the Great, proves beyond any doubt that the Roman Catholic Church is a Christian front for the Judaic Babylon religion. Something else interesting. The financial section of London is a separate city-state unto itself, as is the Vatican. A lot of people know that. As is the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. The three of them are one of the same country, the same hierarchy, the same corporation. So a separate area in London, a separate area Washington, D.C. in the United States, and the Vatican are all one. From my research, and I'll have to investigate and expose that again. Page 265. The elders of Zion chose their words carefully when identifying their future world leader as the Pope. There is a direct historical connection between Judaism and Roman Catholicism. I know that during the Crusades from 1000 to 1300 with the 8 Crusades, according to John Robinson's book, which I shall get and show you. Like I said before, I was reading books for 10 years before I decided I was going to write a book. I never thought I would jump right into these videos, commentaries, and book reviews. So about 9 years plus, I decided that I had learned enough and that it was urgent that this information get out there. Because I knew other people didn't have 10 years to spare, nor the resources to be able to read every day. It takes quite a bit to read a book this thick. And as you can see, I did read it, all my little tabs. Dungeon, Fire, and Sword, The Knights Templar and the Crusades, John Robinson. Quite an interesting book. I learned about the viciousness. I learned about that it was Jewish people who were the financiers to the Vatican and the kings and queens and people in high places, and the procurers of supplies and armaments, so that these crusades, 8 of them, could happen. Leaving Europe and crossing over the north of the Mediterranean, pillaging and robbing and murdering along the way, to get to the Middle East, to conquer all the castles, cities, slaughter the citizens, knee-deep in blood. There's one instance where the Arabs, after one crusade, the Arabs managed to find a leader, and a horde of them, armies and armies, went down the coast and took the castles back. And in one situation, there were a bunch of Knights Templars that they had captured, these guys. And instead of killing them, they gouged out all their eyes. And had I think it was a young girl. They were all tied together with a rope so they could know where they were going. And a young girl in the front was towing them along into the desert. Humanity can be so cruel. And the stuff we've been reading, promoting the Satanism and wanting to get vengeance against God, as it says here in this document, that Satan praised as wickedly cool. Down here, Satan, at least accordingly to literature, has proved no slouch in fighting the Lord. So the people who are in charge of the media now have obviously picked a side. And regrettably, 85% of the people, in the United States anyways, are zombified. They glued to the TV. They believe the mind-numbing propaganda. Stupid stuff. Satan praised is wickedly cool. Just saying. It's just hard to fathom. It's crazy, this stuff in this book. The Christian leaders, page 111, in pursuit of a decisive victory, took 600 knights and chased after the Muslims. Interesting book to read. You'll learn a lot. And I keep talking about the book Empire of Their Own. I have been reading a little bit of this book. How the Jews Invented Hollywood. And all I can tell you, the arrogance in this book of these people, the activities, listen to this. I just had a little tab here, as you can see, that I do things. Things that struck me when I was reading through the book. And I've barely touched on this book. What bit so deeply in Selnick and the other Hollywood Jews was not just a pagan demonstration of wealth, as Corda said. The wealth was what made it easy to gamble. Gambling was a kind of therapy that cut through all the afflictions and reduced everything to basic naked aggression. It tested the skills of bluff and nerve and judgment, which were the measure of a film executive, and it provided a small arena for tremendously competitive and insecure men to intimidate one another and prove themselves. There's just a lot in here that you could learn about the Jews in Hollywood, the people who run it. And they get a lot of government contracts to produce a lot of propaganda, to mind control we the people. Another book I have here, from John Robinson, Born in Blood, The Lost Secrets of Freemasonry, John Robinson. The Empire of Their Own book was no thin book either. How many pages? Almost 500. I just flipped this open. Born in Blood. You know, how much more does it have to be clear than this? Spare no known means of torture. You can see I highlighted quite a bit. I'll just read this one paragraph. Most Masons today believe that their fraternity was born in the medieval guides of stonemasonry. It says here, Christ doesn't matter, His Holy Mother doesn't matter, and the Pope in Rome doesn't matter. All that matters is that you agree that there is indeed a supreme being over all of us. This doesn't mean that the Freemasons cannot be Christians, because most of them certainly are. However, it does mean that the basic fraternity of Freemasonry is not structured on the Christian ethic per se, but welcomes any man who believes in any perception of a monotheistic supreme being. So I guess believing in Lucifer would be a one supreme being. And we know from going over the Freemasonic books, they definitely have a appearance of Judaism, the King Solomon's temple, and all their rituals and words and all that stuff. And they have to swear a secret oath, blindfolded with a noose around their neck, a tow line, half naked with a dagger pointed at their chest, their hand on the Bible, and under threat of death, not to reveal any of the secrets goings on in the temples. Freemasonic lodges are called temples. If you look outside one, look at the building, it says temple, Freemasonic temple. And as they also pledge to obey the master. And these lodges are all over the world in every city and town. It's like a secret hidden army. And you wonder sometimes, you know, how they organize these riots and events. All they got to do is make a phone call to the master of the lodge. And all those people that are members have families in all those communities. A little bit of money and a little bit of control, and you can cause anything. And I keep mentioning this book. This was probably one of the earlier books I read that exposed a lot to me. It told me who financed Hitler. It's the name of the book, Who Financed Hitler, by James Poole and Suzanne Poole. Let's just say a lot of American wealthy people were involved. Illuminati types, Freemasonic types, and Jewish types. Rothschilds, Rockefellers. Without that finance and control, Hitler could have never obtained enough power to bring World War II about. He had to be supplied with even oil, money, weapons. Germany didn't have that stuff. Somebody wanted the war. The same war that Albert Pike, in I think it was 1887, in his letter to Mazzini in Italy, that 3 world wars would be required to bring about a new world order. Can anybody see all this comes together? In another earlier book, I know we just went over Nestor Webster's Secret Societies and Subversive Movements, but one of her earlier books that really opened my eyes to the French Revolution and who was behind it, the Karl Marx type communist Jewish folks, was World Revolution. The Plot Against a Civilization. These titles of these books keep telling us what's going on. There is a plot. They have to appease, please, Satan. I'll just read this one paragraph here, give you a little sample. Alright. Robespierre aims, but his methods were to be commended. But when it come to organizing the required insurrection, okay, here's what it says. I confess today that I bear a grudge against myself for having formerly seen the revolutionary government and Robespierre and Saint Just in such black colors. I think these men alone were worth all the revolutionaries put together, and that their dictatorial government was devilishly well thought out. Do you see what we are dealing with? Not only do they have a religious goal of a one world order, new age, all satanic, Luciferic, but they have an organization. They have plans. They take pride in what they're doing. I do not at all agree that they committed great crimes and made many Republicans perish. Not so many, I think. The salvation of 25 millions of men must not be weighed against consideration for a few equivocal individuals. A regenerator must take a wide outlook. A regenerator. So that's what they promised people here in the United States, and what they probably promised people in the Ukraine before they ousted that president, and days later took 30-something tons of gold out of there to New York. Middle of the night, probably. 911, one of those buildings. Truckloads of gold became missing. Huh. Look it up. He must mow down everything that thwarts him. This is what revolutions are all about. He must mow down everything that thwarts him. Everything that obstructs his passage. Everything that can impede his prompt arrival at the goal of which he has determined. Radicals, rascals, and imbeciles, or presumptuously people, or those eager for glory, it is all the same. What are they there for? Robespierre knew all that, and it is partly what makes me admire him. But where Bubeuf showed himself, the intellectual, inferior to Robespierre, was in the way he proposed to overcome resistance to his plan of a socialistic state. Wow. Robespierre, as he well knew, had spent 14 months mowing down those who obstructed his passage, had kept the guillotine unremittingly at work in Paris. That guillotine was running 24/7, lopping off heads. I'm saying this. The French Revolution. By these people, Illuminati, Freemasons, Zionists, Talmudic Jews, Kabbalah, witchcraft, Rosicrucians, Hollywood, leaders of all the politicians in the United States and Europe, EU, getting all those individual companies to join the EU, where their representatives are now appointed, not elected, of the people. What does it take? Kept the guillotine unremittingly at work in Paris, lopping off heads 24/7. How many truck drivers go on YouTube? Type in guillotines on YouTube. Truck drivers, guillotines, 2 keywords, or just guillotines. How many people reported guillotines being delivered to army bases, FEMA camps? Stuff like that. The government buying hollow point bullets. Patriot Act, which isn't patriotic. Obama healthcare bill, that you can read it after we pass it. Pacific Trade Agreement recently, while they were having that Oregon college shooting, they were signing the Pacific Trade Agreement. And I learned this recently. When they sign a trade agreement, a treaty, this isn't legislation that our senators and representatives get together on and intellectually discuss it, pass it for the president's signature. It's the President Obama, who is a puppet, from these Illuminati people. Let's make no bones about it. There is no difference between the Republican leader coming after Obama, if that's the case, or the Democratic leader coming after Obama, if that's the case. They're all working for the same people. It's all a show. When they pass these treaties, I'll say the treaty between the North American NAFTA, Free Trade Treaty, Canada, United States, and Mexico. So when those three presidents got together, Mexico president, Canadian president, the USA president, and signed that treaty, bypassing all legislation, the only way that treaty can be broken is if the three presidents of those three countries get together again and decide to dismantle or alter or make a new treaty. So the Pacific Trade Agreement, when they're signing that, with all the Pacific, to compete and create all kinds of laws that are probably detrimental to the health and well-being of USA citizens, which is the plan to destroy Christianity, as we have just read in many books. Who financed the Hitler by the pools? The Balfour Agreement in World War I. Hitler in World War II. So now all those leaders of all those countries in the Pacific, in the United States, and whoever else was involved signing it, it's law, bypassing the senators and representatives of the USA. And the only way it can be broken or altered is if all those people get together again and alter it. So while the Oregon shooting was going on, they were signing that. You think that's a coincidence? And also while they were having the Oregon shooting, and these are videos I watch on YouTube. That's where I learn some of this stuff. I research every day, educate every day. The headlines in Europe were about the massive slaughter of Syrian people, bodies, children being found. They didn't want the USA media to see that. So they had an Oregon shooting. Crisis actors again? Mind control again? I don't know. It looks suspicious. Just like the guy who went into the church and shot the black people looks suspicious. People have made videos on it. Sandy Hook, Boston bombing at 666 Boylston Street. Kennedy gets shot at Delaney Plaza, a Freemasonic plaza, when 7 days earlier he was going to expose the secret conspiracy going on. 911, they were having war games, or whatever you call it, exercises, pretending to fly planes into buildings. In the London train bombing, they had exercises pretending to blow up trains when it happened. In Boston bombing, they had exercises pretending to have bombs. Sandy Hook school shooting, they had exercises nearby pretending to have a shooting in a school. Oregon, the college there, was awarded a huge grant to be training for school shootings, police people and stuff. They were into that. Oh well, back to the book. Some pretty crazy stuff. You start studying this stuff. Page 287. But how did this clearly sinful practice of communicating with the dead through so-called prayer originate? How many people have I talked to? I don't know. Who say Jesus is talking to them. Spirit guides are talking to them. They're in communication with masters into the occult. This is New Age stuff. It's everywhere. It is a direct outgrowth of the necromancy practiced by the Jews, communicating with the dead. Necromancy is so ingrained in Judaism that among ancient Jews, some rabbis considered knowledge in necromancy to be a necessary qualification for the seat of the Sanhedrin, which was the grand council and court of justice among the ancient Jews. The Roman Catholic Church has a different gospel, with a different Jesus than that was found in the Bible. See 2 Corinthians 11-4. Their different gospel was born of the Kabbalah and has different doctrines and a different Mary from the Mary in the Bible. In the Bible, Mary is the handmaid of the Lord. See Luke 1-38. The Roman Catholic Church, Mary, however, is the imperious Queen of Heaven, who rules over all things. The Catholic Mary, as distinguished from the biblical Mary, is a heathen goddess who in 1950 was infallibly declared by Pope Pius XII to have been assumed body and soul into heaven and crowned queen over all things. Stuff you have to learn. Investigate. Study. All right. Bella Dodd was a high government official in the Communist Party USA and sat on its National Council. She later left the Communist Party and in 1953 testified before the United States Senate about widespread communist infiltration of labor unions and other institutions, including public education, all of which were designed to undermine and demoralize the United States. 1953. And who were behind the communists? The Zionist Talmudic Jews. The Illuminati. The banks of Rothschild, Rockefellers. The Church of Satan. The Kabbalists. Hollywood. The media. Book publishers. Dodd revealed in a speech that one of her jobs as a communist agent was to encourage young radicals to enter Catholic seminaries. There you go, infiltration of the church. Young radicals to enter Catholic seminaries. And we know now that they were into pedophilia. She stated that during her time in the Communist Party, she had encouraged more than 1,000 young radicals to infiltrate the seminaries and religious orders, Dodd stated. So they wanted to discredit the Catholic Church, which may not have been a good institution at the top anyways, but generally speaking, 1/3 of the population of the planet are probably Catholics. Christians of some type or another. They wanted to eliminate the opate, as Rabbi Marvin Anthelman would have put it. They wanted to discredit it and destroy people's belief in God. If you've been studying this like I have, and you've been watching my videos, it seems to become clearer and clearer. In the 1930s, we put 1,100 men into the priesthood in order to destroy the church from within. So all the people out there who now have watched the news and these priests were caught doing this or doing that, it was all planned. Like everything else. Like Albert Pike in his letter about 3 world wars. World War I, World War II. The idea was for these men to be ordained and then climb the ladder of influence and authority by monsignors and bishops. I could do another video on this book. I've got this much more I wanted to do, but I'll end this video. I've said enough. Thank you for watching my video. Rick Miracle reporting.